I get the meeting started. Can we please stand? I pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's do roll. President's here. Vice President.
Present.
Secretary. Yes. Commissioner. Here. Treasurer. Here. Softball Commissioner.
Here.
Member at large, Chris. Here. All right. Kim emailed out the minutes from last month's meeting. I'd like to, everybody get a chance to review them? I did. I'd like to make a motion to accept them into the minutes.
I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Voted in. Pretty easy to pull this up. So, last fall, I unexpectedly lost my mom during the baseball season. Her house was right down the road, and what held me together was my faith, my family, and friends, and particularly this league. We're all getting to the age where we have older parents, but it was unexpected, and there was a real kinship in this league, and it's gone. Okay. You're looking, this is my 8th season coming in the president, and we used to have a unity. Everybody was pushing the same direction. That's no longer happening. There's a fracture amongst us. Never had it before. I was talking to one of the board members before, and I've had since this probably summer, fall season, more issues on the board than I've had in the previous 6 combined. And it's just, it's a cycle that's repeating itself. There's too much negative energy. During the Christmas holiday, I go out to a mall or a restaurant and I see people that have been Royal Palm or even a bank, and they told me it was the worst season they ever had. And some of them aren't coming back. And some of them we had to say, hey, please come back. I think, Kyle, you came across that this past weekend. And if we don't correct it, our league is going to go by the wayside like a lot of leagues have done. We've built this a particular way, and it was deviated from this past fall. I do want to make one more. I'm going to deviate for 1 second. Us as a league, any board member, not one of us have a right, as I see Wendy back there, to take somebody who's on a prison release, a parole, someone who needs community hours as part of their police, whatever community hours they need. None of us have a right to drop that person off at Wendy and say, this person needs community hours, take care of them and leave the park. That's something that has to be brought to a board. We're a league of second chances. In a situation like that, it'd be discussed as a board and voted upon, something that's highly supervised. She's giving kids an opportunity back there in the kitchen, and to put someone in there who's somehow doing justice restitution, needing community hours, is the wrong way to do that. So that won't happen again. We have built a lot of things up here. We talked about the concession and umpiring. When Kyle became umpire in chief, that was one of our biggest complaints, and he mainstreamed it. In the last board meeting, we talked about this. Okay, we said Danny is our umpiring in chief. We talked about doing things different in terms of having someone local. But at no point do we say we were taking scheduling away from Danny. Kyle, you're in the umpiring community. If we were to lose Danny, where would that put us?
I think personally that it would put us at a big disadvantage. During my season, Danny is somebody that I relied on for a lot of help. One of the first big complaints that I got as umpire in chief was the kids were too young, they weren't learning, and there was numerous of coaches that requested that they didn't have certain umpires behind the plate, and some of those coaches are in this room today. So I think if we push Danny out of this park, it's not only going to hurt us, but we're going to push even further back than where we are today.
So we'll go there. I'm sorry. For Friday night, I probably spent 4 hours of my time doing registration brochures and postcards. And it was a good thing. It was positive energy in the right direction, the way we used to do things. Then I got a phone call that Danny's upset on Saturday as I'm with my family on vacation on the beach, walking the beach. And for whatever reason, no one had the right to go to Danny and Glenn to tell him, right, that we're thinking about pulling your scheduling away from you and doing in-house in Royal Palm Beach, but we still need your help. Yeah, 1 second. That's exactly how it was done and communicated.
No, I got it right here.
I'm just telling you how he told me.
I'm going to tell you how it went. I took pictures of screenshots.
That's great. And I can tell you that his response was negative. And by the way, that was never, whatever he walked away with from your conversation, whatever it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't vote on.
No, we didn't.
All
There's
right?
nothing to vote on. Let me turn this.
Go ahead.
There's nothing to vote on. It says right here in last month's minutes, and I didn't even want to go here. I didn't want to go here. I got one for everybody. If y'all want to see them, I can pass them out or I can read it to you. Last month's minutes, Casey. Outsourcing was our biggest issue. Kids were umpiring a lot. We should have never have just one umpire in older divisions 8 and up. Danny is good, but we need to use more in-house people to ump games. Maybe we have a possible, maybe have a possible liaison representing Royal Palm Beach umps. And I got the text messages exactly word for word. I screenshotted them. This is what I said. I got time, right? Danny, how's it going? Hope you had a good New Year's. You too. And I got them for y'all if you want them. We were tossing around the idea of going in-house with a head umpire. 2 things. Would that offend you? And would you still help us out with games if necessary? You did a good job, so don't take anything personal. It's a public opinion thing. Please be honest, and none of this is final. It's just being discussed. He said, well, first of all, who would you do it to? That depends on whether or not I'm doing it. I said, okay, let's get together and figure out what's best, because I do not want to go backwards. Maybe this weekend if you can. I said, texting sucks. Blah, blah, blah. That's how it went.
Where did we say we're removing this thing in-house? That was never agreed upon.
That's
for umpiring.
No, it wasn't. I didn't tell him it was agreed upon.
But did you not just say that? We're thinking about moving this in-house on your text?
Yeah, and I said I don't want to go backwards. And yeah, we talked about it in board.
No, we talked about having somebody local to augment and somebody to do the officiating interpretation. You know, those were the roles that we didn't define, but at no point did we ever say we're taking his umpire in chief away.
I didn't say I was taking it away.
Well,
I said I don't want to go backwards. That's why I wanted to meet him. I said, hold on. I said texting sucks. And here's the biggest thing. Here's the biggest thing. The baseball commissioner is responsible for the day-to-day operations according to the board. The baseball commissioner shall provide input on additions to the rules, deletions, blah, blah, blah. This is where it counts. The baseball commissioner shall oversee the umpire in chief. The baseball commissioner shall receive in writing complaints, disputes, and handle the same on a case-by-case basis. If the baseball commissioner is unable to resolve such complaints, he shall present it to the board. Tell me what I did wrong.
no, you telling him taking away his responsibility by going in-house is not what we agreed upon.
I didn't say we were doing that. I said I want to discuss it with you. I said the board, it was discussed.
Listen, if someone says to you, we're thinking about taking away your position, let's
I didn't
discuss
say
it.
that.
That's the way he came across, and that's the way he felt. And he was on edge about it.
Which is why you wanted to meet with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
To discuss it, and not.
Nothing is final. It's being discussed. Did we discuss it in the board meeting?
Never did we say we were taking anything away from Danny.
I didn't say we were taking, did we discuss coming in-house in the board meeting? Yes,
Oh,
we did.
wait. We talked about an in-house augmentation to Danny, not to replace
We also
Danny.
talked about bringing it in-house, then we talked about a
We did
liaison.
not. We did not have the resources to do anyone in Royal Palm Beach to do that. Does anybody have this recollection on this board
I
meeting?
got it. I got the
You know?
minutes. I got
Yeah.
everything.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was someone that he can call in the league, just say, hey, or like one person for him to kind of talk.
Single point of
What
contact
I
and
got from
then.
the last board meeting was, we were gonna get a liaison, someone to call Danny if we needed to get umpires.
No.
Then what's the point of a
we-
liaison?
The number one, the liaison we talked about, the chief number one responsibility was handling on-field disputes. That's number one. Number two was to augment staffing, right? Like, we had a situation where they said there was one umpire in 10U.
Right.
I was on the same text as Glenn was. Ed does. We found a umpiring for 15U and 12U, and we discussed taking that away from a commissioner whose focus should be strictly on coaching, not on umpiring, so when there's a shortfall, they can augment and pitch in.
I need to read it again?
But
a waste of
in the
time.
bylaws, it says, my job as softball commissioner, I'm in charge of my umpires. I get my umpires for softball, and I'm in charge of the goings-on in softball, correct?
Yeah.
But in the last meeting, we discussed paying someone $40 a night to dispute rules, and a liaison to speak to Danny about making sure we have umpires for 8U and up. Enough.
Well, for everyone. Overall feeling, seeing how they're doing, rating the umpires, but not to replace the scheduling.
I don't
Not to
feel that
replace the
anybody
scheduling.
said
He's the one who's
anything
got
about.
he's the one who's got the contacts for all the umpiring.
Right.
Quality umpiring.
So if there isn't an umpire in a 10U game, there's only one, then the liaison is the one that goes to Danny, correct?
If there's yes, that was, and this year it went to Glenn and went to me and Ed, and then we replaced in 15 and 12, and nothing was done in 10. And by having someone, when there's a shortfall, would address that situation. Good, Ed, you want to say something?
Yes, we talked about a liaison, so if we were short umpires again, which Danny, when that happened, Danny told us a week before that was going to happen that first time. I was on the thread, I don't know why, but I was on the thread, and it was put out there that it was shorthanded due to tournaments. And nothing was done about it. Nothing was done about it. I mean, I was at the tournament myself. I couldn't do anything, obviously, but nothing was done to remedy that problem. It was put out a week before that it was going to happen, and nothing happened. And I know I was on the thread. I believe you were on the thread, Chris. I believe you were on the thread, Glenn. Amy, Wendy was on the thread. Nothing got done. And that's why we were talking about having a liaison. We cannot, my personal opinion, we cannot get rid of Danny.
I don't feel
Okay.
like anybody wants to get rid of him.
But my personal, if I read your text, Glenn, that sounded like you wanted to get rid of me.
Let me read the next line of the text, just to let you know. Texting sucks, let's meet face to face so there's no misunderstandings.
Yeah.
I don't want to go backwards as a league.
Yeah. But the way you worded that, and the way when you read that off, the way it sounded like we were going away from Danny.
That's the whole concept.
And that's what he got out of it. It sounds like it. But there shouldn't even, my personal opinion, there shouldn't even be a discussion about the umpire in chief right now. The umpire chief is fine. It's all it is communication. Bottom line. We should be worrying about right now getting kids in our program for the spring. That's it. And setting up coaching and all that stuff. This is crazy that we're worrying about an umpire in chief right now. My opinion.
But would you not agree, Ed, if you want to answer my question, would you not agree that a lot of the 10U parents are upset that they only had one umpire? So
Of
that,
course. Of course.
Addressing the umpire and I don't feel that Glenn said that we're getting rid of you. He said we had discussed in-house, which we did discuss it. It's not a lie. That's not anything untrue. No. We did discuss it in the meeting. Nobody took a vote on it or said we were going to do it or whatever, but we did discuss it. So that did happen. Whether anybody up here wants to agree to that or not, we can watch the tape from last meeting. We did discuss it going in-house, whatever, it is what it is. But when he said, I'd like to discuss this in person so nothing gets misunderstood, text messaging, we all do it. I could be happy and thinking of puppies, but my text message comes out like I'm a psychopath. It happens.
Maybe next time, instead of sending a text like that, maybe you should just call him and talk to him about it in person.
Yeah, I actually printed the rest of them. I've been trying since the 2nd to get with him in person.
What?
And he's just been busy. I had to go to Orlando, and I even texted him today, said, hey, is there any way, I got a meeting. I want to tell him we resolve this.
Listen, and look, Danny's going to be an asset when we do our spring tournament. I'm telling you, if we burn bridges with him, not only are we going to lose my umpire connection for travel games, we're going to lose umpires for the summer bash. And I'm telling you right now, the last person I want to go to, I love Cameron to death, but he's a good umpire. He's got one or two other good ones, but the rest of them.
Yeah, you're right, you're right. No, I wanted to get it resolved before this meeting. That's why I tried to get a hold of him all week. I said he had to go to Orlando. We were supposed to meet at lunch and we were supposed to meet at dinner. He's just busy. He's got a lot going on. I didn't want anything to be misunderstood. I didn't obviously know this was gonna happen, but I was trying to get everything so I could come in here and on my report say, hey, it's fixed. He's not gonna do it. He's gonna use our umpire. Everything that Casey brought up and everything was brought up in the minutes from last week.
We did not, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Can I get a copy of all that for
Oh, yes, ma'am. There you go. You want one too?
We left their umpiring discussion open-ended. I'm good. And we said we would address it this one. So we didn't have a final plan to go to Danny and say, this is what we want to do. The other thing is, when you look at our league's greatest need, this is not one of them. We're talking about one incident where we're talking about improving something. We're not talking about gutting it, right? And by the way, while we're talking umpire in chief, has anyone promised someone else the umpire in chief position on this board?
No.
No one's been.
I did talk to someone about it, but I haven't promised anybody. I was actually told, yes, I did talk to someone about it, and I was told to give them a test to see if we were even thinking about it, using them to see if they could schedule anything.
But why fan the flames when there wasn't a need for an umpire in
Wasn't
chief?
fanning the flames, I was doing my job. My job is to handle complaints. When I have a whole league of 10U parents and coaches and managers screaming at me because we don't have umpires and it's not fair and we paid the same money as 12U and everybody else, but they got 2 umpires. It's my job to deal with the complaints. As Chris Rolfe brought up last time, that's my job. If I cannot handle it, if I cannot handle the umpire problem, then I bring it to you. That's the reality of the situation. That's what's in our bylaws. That's what you wrote. That's what you changed and corrected. I handle complaints, disputes. If I cannot handle them, I come to you. I haven't got to where I can't handle it yet. I got to get the guy to meet with
But
me.
when it comes to changing a league leader, that's something that should be discussed amongst the board, saying we're having
Absolutely.
issues, should
I'm
we
not
do
to that
that?
point yet. I'm not to that point.
Wow.
He
In
didn't
my,
say,
in my
"No,
opinion,
I'm not going to use
in
your-"
my opinion, coaching is a far greater issue than our umpiring issue, and that's where your resources need to be spent.
They
And
will
each
be
commissioner is with coaching. That we've gone away from coaching, and I've got a whole list of items here that could address that issue. All right, not umpiring chief is not broken. We're talking about tweaking something, not gutting it.
And that's what I'm doing.
I've been here, I'm Dave Mancuso, I've been here for 6 years.
Push the little thing.
I've never had an issue with umpires, and I don't think Danny's the issue, but I had 3 games, not 1, 3 games. One, I didn't have an umpire at all, and they pulled somebody, and 2 other games, I had 1 umpire behind my pitcher calling balls and strikes. My parents were pissed, and I'm not the only team that had that issue. So it's in his, that's his jobs to figure out. It's in our bylaws. He's not, I mean, you can look at it, you could throw a piece of paper with a sentence on it and every single one of us is going to take it different. So jumping down his throat because someone took something the wrong way, I don't see the point of that. Your focus is on something, because I think personally, because of petty personal issues with him. But we're grown adults and wasting time on something stupid. Let's move on past this, figure out the issue with our umpires. I don't think we should get rid of Danny, but we need to improve upon our umpires. I mean, 3 games out of what we had 12 games, 10 games isn't acceptable.
I agree with your assessment on umpiring. This meeting was to finalize proposals on that, not to stir the pot. Like Kyle mentioned, if we were to lose Danny, we would be in a world of hurt from an umpiring pool perspective. So I don't disagree with you on the umpiring. All right.
Did we have Danny before last season?
When did Kyle, when did you,
No, it was last season.
yeah,
Last season was for
He wasn't umpiring chief, but
So-
he was
yeah.
helping out, right?
Yeah.
Not saying Danny's not an asset, but the one season we had him was the first season I've ever had an issue with not having umpires. So facts are facts.
Now, I mean, I think part of that is, I mean, looking at it, which is my job, what I'm supposed to do, we had Royal Palm Beach umpires that didn't get used. And I don't know the reason behind that. That was part of what I got to discuss with him still. We have a pool of umpires. Yes, we have some that maybe we don't want in that pool. I got to talk to Kyle about it. But we do have like 3 or 4 or 5 that could have helped Danny out. Maybe he doesn't have their list. Maybe they weren't available. I don't know. I haven't talked to him yet. That's so like, yes, he's only been with us one season, but maybe he has tools that he didn't know about, or maybe he didn't get a list that he could have that makes it easier. It's all part of this discussion that I'm trying. I just got to get to that. I got to get in front of his face because I don't want to text him.
Well,
All right, so I will tell you firsthand, scheduling is a nightmare for umpiring. It always has been, it always will be, okay? And I can't tell you how many times you can ask Miss Wendy, you can ask Ed, you can ask Casey. Every day, there's at least 1 to 2 umpires that can't make it. And it's hectic to get somebody at the last minute, especially our season umpires, because they outsource. They go to other parks if they don't get scheduled, okay? It's extra money in their pocket. Like I said, the umpire community is small. So they will be loyal to whoever's going to give them games. All right. If I remember correctly, last board meeting, it was only discussed that one game on Saturday is when there was 1 umpire and 10 you. Now you're saying 3. I'm not saying you're lying or anything, so don't get my words misconstrued. But I mean, that's the first time I ever heard that it was more than just Saturday. So
Yeah, it was like 2 weekends.
Hiccups are going to happen.
I know it was like there was 2 Wednesday games, I think. It might have been.
I'm just saying hiccups are going to happen, and sometimes it is tough, and it looks bad on us. It does. I agree with you, but
And I'm not, like I said, not disagreeing with Danny, but I'm saying it needs to be talked to about how we can fix some of the problems. 5.5 years, no problems with any of my games, 1 season. Obviously, there's a change, and there's times I didn't have an umpire in Bailey. He's doing field director concession. It's like, I'm just saying, we need to, things have to be discussed with Danny.
yeah.
Yeah, that was sometimes because I approached him and talked to him, being transparent, and I think one of the times, from what I understand, it was by choice, which to me is wrong. I'm not sure, I'm not positive, so don't, sorry if it's being recorded, but I'm not absolutely positive it was by choice, but I think it was by choice. And I'm not, this may all be resolved with 2 beers and nachos at Brass Ring, which is what I was trying to get Kyle to go with me because he has the list I need. I tried to contact him a couple days ago, but he sleeps early. So it may all be resolved in 10 minutes. I just don't know. I haven't been able to get a hold of the guy. That's it.
How you doing? My name is Jacob Chandler. We scheduled many games with Kyle to travel this season. We didn't have any problems, or excuse me, Danny, not Kyle. But what it seems to be a common theme with a lot of the problems that happen with the board happens to evolve around communication. I talk to my employees all the time about picking up the telephone. Many things get taken out of context. Most of the fights between all the coaches have happened because there's been a text message that has lasted a month. And people don't understand it. I would just employ the board when it comes time to talking with your outside vendors, from accounting to your softball to whatever. When it comes time to those type of interpersonal things, just try to keep it off a text message. I mean, maybe some of you are doing it just so you can document it so that people don't try to come after you later. But definitely just try to schedule those meetings face to face. Try to have a couple different people and come to a resolution. I know you're just trying to gather information. And I know there was nothing malicious there. It did sound a little abrasive, but I mean, in myself negotiating contracts with different people as vendors, because the board is the boss, not him, sometimes you do have to be a shot across the bow to say, hey, look, we need to make sure we don't have this issue. I don't, again, I think that conversation at the end of the day would have resolved it. But I want this board to stay like it is. I know Coach Bruce isn't here right now, but I think this particular board, the way it's set up right now, if you give each other a chance, everybody, to move forward into these next seasons, that you guys can really do some really good things.
I agree 100% with Jake that there does need to be more communication between us, because more than once I've walked into a board meeting having a panic attack, and I don't think that's right, because I feel like something bad, like I just get this feelings that something bad is going to happen, and it just I get anxiety all day, and there's other people on this board that can attest. I've called them. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I don't like when I ask a question and nobody answers my question. And it drives me to the brink. It really does. And I feel like I've asked 2 or 3 meetings ago if we could just have a conversation, not through text, just like have a conversation where, and I brought up the mom spaghetti dinner on a Sunday kind of conversation where we talk and not have backdoor agendas and surprise people at meetings with craziness. It's too much, and it's not fair. So I really think as a board, we need to come together and be one unit instead of this person doesn't like this person and this person doesn't. Who cares? We're here for the kids. We're here for baseball and softball. We're not here for whose club's bigger. I'm really tired of it. So that's all I have to say about that.
I try to be patient. I just want to try to clear some things up. Hopefully, as a board, you guys can move past this and, as you said, better communication and stuff like that. Listening to the bylaws, do I feel that anything that Glenn did with this text is against the bylaws? I don't. Does it get a little fuzzy when he starts talking about like replacing him, discussing that with Danny? Perhaps. I would say to you, Glenn, like there's no reason to really discuss if it's going to offend him or possibly replacing him. You want to talk to him about the issues that you've been having, just say, hey, we need to talk about some issues that we had this past year. Can we talk about it? There's no reason to bring up is this going to offend you if we replace you? Because if I read that text, if I was Danny and I read that text, I'm like, they're trying to get rid of me. That's how it's going to come across, whether you intended that or not. So for the future, like text messages, like you said, they're going to get misconstrued. They always do. Me and my wife, I'll send her a text and she's like, calls me all upset, and I'm like, why are you crying? What is going on? Part of that's probably just her, period. But it is, I know it's recorded.
She just had a baby. Leave that woman alone.
All right. But, so keeping things as basic as possible just to get the point across that we need to talk about these issues. And really the thing that's really going to be under your purveyance as the baseball commissioner regarding the umpire is dealing with those complaints and saying, hey, Danny, we had several issues where things things weren't fielded and you weren't using some of these refs when you should have. And, that's what you should have been, that's what you need to focus on, not on, hey, we might be replacing you. Would you be offended? That kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I probably did, because right after that, if you read it, I said texting sucks.
Right.
I said that.
Right.
Hold on.
It's kind of like after the fact, though. It's like you can't do it afterwards. It's like it's already been said. You can't take it back. So
I think we need to discuss changing bylaws. To me, the umpire in chief our greatest need is coaching. And I've got a list of things we can cover here. An umpire in chief is more of administrative stuff. I think the commissioner and the VP are together, but the dotted line responsibility should be him, more of an admin role. There's nothing more important than a commissioner. The biggest complaint, Ed, is what of our league? Coaching. Okay? Coaching. And if you're being distracted with this, you should be cognizant of it, I think, as commissioner, but I think an admin, especially a guy with a background, should be change your bylaws, umpire in chief to VP, full-time coaching, clinic, reviews of that.
Absolutely. I agree. I wouldn't have got all that shitstorm. It would have been on him.
So, does anybody else have any comments on that? Chris?
No, I'm fine with it.
I'd like to make a change to our bylaws that the umpire in chief report to the vice president.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Let's go into coaching. Have you done, Glenn, anything this fall coming up? I mean, spring?
Just DDs. I haven't got the registration yet to find out. I know some of the coaches that are coming back. I know some that I have to talk to the board about that we can't let come back. Because it's been like since I've, at least 3 or 4 seasons that I know of, that we've had issues with the same guys. And again, And again, it's one of me dealing with complaints, that's the coaching thing. I didn't know, like last time you sent me the list from last season, I have the list from last season. This we can talk about later, but no, I've got my DD, I presented the DDs and that's all I've got so far. That's where I'm at.
All right,
Sorry.
So, all right, let's touch base on the DDs. I look at it and I scratch my head, okay? There's some that make sense, and I'm looking at others going, we specifically said as division director, a manager from the next division up is a keen candidate for DD, the division he just left. And there's 3 guys recommended that are in the same division. One hasn't even managed a 12U team. And then one of them you put in was violating a player safety. That's our benchmark of our league. Go ahead.
Yes, he did. You're talking about Andy Bellotti, right? Yeah, he did. He called me, and I did confirm that he wasn't, he wanted to, what he was going to try to do was violating our league. He actually didn't, I don't believe, but he was gonna.
Chris?
I don't know, but I'm just saying.
If I didn't call out that the guy had just thrown 72 pitches, and the fact that he signed a waiver during draft that says it's my responsibility as a manager to know the rules, he would catch them. Chris, you were there.
Oh, I believe you. I got the whole story.
What was your interpretation?
I'll be honest with you, my memory is shot, but I do believe my memory was he did violate the rules, and I believe he had also did another time based on, I wasn't there, Tirzay, but another manager said he did it in another game as well.
Yeah, I didn't get those reports. That's
Well, I sent you and Bruce a text that night and gave you very specific information about it.
Right, and I dealt with that. I called him, and he actually called me. I let him know.
And he denied it?
No, he didn't deny it. He couldn't deny it because you guys, I said, hey, he didn't know is what his defense was. He didn't know.
Why have him as division director then?
Because he knows now, and as far as I know, that's the only thing he did. I mean, I take people who are stepping up, who want to get involved, to take the place who have been involved and maybe leaving in a few months or moving on in 6 months. I'm trying to get other people back. Now, in total honesty, his kid may be 16 too, and he may be leaving, and maybe he's not a good choice. That's why I put it, again.
Well, I don't want to attack him, but to me, if he were to be a DD, he should be the 12U because that's where he came from.
Right.
And then Bruce should be a 10U.
Well, what I believe we discussed last time was and I might be mistaken. I don't know. I didn't see that in the minutes. We were going to go with DDs in the division because we're going to they're going to work with the all-star managers in that division and make sure the all-star players get picked.
I don't recall that conversation.
I know, unless I don't know. I thought we were going with DDs in the same division.
No.
Possible to add individuals who moved up from the division.
Okay, that's why I sent it, a couple 2-3 days ago, because if there's problems or I need to change it, I'll change it. I just got to go out and beat the bushes and find some more DDs.
As far as 15U, it's a different animal that someone needs to understand a higher level of baseball. That man back there in the back row would be a great candidate, Ed Bianco. All right. He's not in the division.
You're welcome.
Now,
And he would do that.
I think that's probably a great idea, but Did he coach in 15U last year? Because we're going with the one. I'm just kidding. No, that'd be a good idea.
No, but he understands that
Yeah,
level of
yeah.
baseball.
No, that's perfect. That's why I
No.
sent the list. And there may be 2 or 3 more,
Right.
but now that I know they can't be in the same division, I got to change a couple of them.
Yeah, Bruce would be good looking down 10.
Yeah, yeah. I thought we were going with that. I misunderstood what we said.
No. What,
But and I'm sorry, and then I'll stop babbling. It's communication.
what do you,
Honestly, I think when you heard that from Danny, you should have texted me or called me and said, hey, what's going on? This dude said you fired me. And I would have said, no, I didn't fire him. It was just a misunderstanding. You can come with me when we go meet him. We'll meet at Brass Ring and we'll have a beer and we'll find out what he's going to do about our own problem.
so I was more walking him off the edge.
I'm staying this time.
Okay, that's my Saturday was interrupted with what I thought was unnecessary lack of communication, whatever. It was more, hey, I'm not coming back. Okay,
Well,
that's a tone that I was dealing with. So,
Okay.
but let's move beyond that.
all right.
All right.
I want to put in real quick 2 cents. From now on, let's deal with the problems when they happen right away and be done with it. That's it. Simple as that. Simple solution. This happened in October. End of October. So let's work on that this spring.
Thanks, sir.
What's going? Have you done any work on the coaching clinic?
There is I don't have my paperwork. We have a coaching clinic set up. The dates are,
Who and I mean, I know some other people have done some legwork on this, so we can all share information. Good, Kyle.
I have a little help in with this, and you can thank Ed as well. I know we were looking at possibly doing Chase in to help kind of with catching. And then Tony Bradley is also looking in to help with the pitching. And Tony Bradley is also looking for somebody else for catching as well, just in case if Chase doesn't want to, or Chance, thank you. Sorry, I apologize. Don't know the guy, but I heard a lot of great things about him. And I know Tony is also interested as well throughout the season. I know we're talking about going throughout the season possibly as well, doing them in smaller groups. So there is one person that is definitely committed on that, and we're looking for more.
Ed, can you come up to the mic?
Ed, just put a chair there.
I know you had enough time. Could you talk a little bit about what you told me?
Okay. Luckily, I get to work with Tony every day. It's such a pleasure. Not really, but we've been discussing a plan for the, and of course, it's going to be a mandatory clinic. We're going to bring on 3 coaches. Tony will do pitching, then we'll have someone do catching, and someone else doing batting. The biggest thing, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a 90-minute 90-minute lesson. We'll break down the groups age-wise. That way, when Tony gets the 8-year-olds, he can work on strictly beginning fundamentals that the coaches can learn and use for their practices. Then the same thing when they go to catching, same thing they can use at hitting. So when they do their practices, the 3 coaches that are at practice can utilize all 3 of these at the same time. They're utilizing their practices fully, but they're getting, in 90 minutes, they're getting smaller groups. When we do the lessons, they're getting smaller groups, so they'll learn. They'll go on to the next instructor, learn. Go on to the next instructor, learn. Take notes, make sure they're taking notes, take videos, whatever. But take this back to their practices, and they can utilize all these during their practice.
are we going to start like the age groups 90 minutes apart?
No, it'll be 30 minutes. All right, say that we'll have the 8-year-olds with Tony for the first 30 minutes, the 10-year-olds with the catcher guy for 30 minutes, yes?
Okay.
Then we'll have the 12 and 14-year-olds with,
Right.
that's about how the numbers break down.
Okay.
Then we'll rotate every 30 minutes. Make it mandatory. These guys have to be accountable. If they want these lessons and they want to learn, they got to come to this coaches clinic. But that's what we've discussed. He thinks it's a great idea. He's looking into, he'll have somebody for us to do all this. He says he'll have somebody. But we need to set a date, so we can tell them and get it going. We have to do this stuff. You know, I mean, we got to get back to the basics at our part. We got to have good coaches. That's what's setting us apart with Okeechobee right now. And Gardens, they all have good coaches. They got professional ball players coaching a lot of their teams. You know, so we need to make it attractive at Royal Palm. We need to have good coaches. We got to want the parents to have a good experience. And like I said, our number one, it's coaching. They have to have a good experience. These managers have to get it, that it's not all about winning. It's teaching baseball, having a good experience, being positive. There's, you know, you guys saw me 10U last year, umpiring a lot of those games, and I saw a lot of negative stuff out there, a lot. You know, so, you know, people forget what it's all about, and we got to get back to instructing these managers.
So, also in the coaching, we didn't have our coaching spreadsheet this past year, so I know I couldn't tell you who was a coach in 6U and 8U. I know Keith diligently did background checks. That has to change. We have to have that. You know, and coaching cards. You know, evermore, that's part of our requirement of having a coaching card. You have to have an NYSCA card or a Cal Ripken card. I've got both. All right, that has to be done this season. We didn't do that in the fall.
Other thing, Chris, pictures so I can make the ID cards. I figured while you were on that topic, you know. Yeah.
All right.
All coaches.
All right. Thank you for that, Steve. All right, something else. Rules. We've got to follow the rules. You know, we didn't do it with 10U. We didn't follow the drop 3 rule. T-ball, we had a rule where players weren't told, I guess, you couldn't receive a ball as a pitcher and run to home plate and tag them out. Our rules, we have workshops. We have to stick to the rules. Playoffs, we told a disaster, the playoffs. It wasn't a playoff, it was a tournament. You know, these are things that spun out of control in the fall that led to disastrous situations. You know, us as a board individual can't take a rule and say, I'm doing it my way. I'm going to have a tournament and I'm going to make my own rankings. You know, we can't do that.
It was that or not have a tournament, or not have a playoff. So our bylaws said a playoff, so I put a tournament together, and I think we need to change our bylaws because the popular opinion on the tournament was friggin' awesome. They all loved it. And if we can change our bylaws to say a tournament in fall and playoffs in spring, I think you can pull the managers, because I've talked to a lot of them, and what we did this fall was like amazing to them. They said it took away the pressure of trying to win every game because they knew nothing really mattered till they got to the tournament, and it was a single elimination tournament. And actually the team that lost the most games won the tournament and won the whole thing. So if we're trying to get to fall being instructional, that tournament is what we got to change. We got to change from playoff.
But we can't change it in midstream. We had a meeting and it was announced we're doing a tournament, and a board member went to me and said, when do we vote on this? And I said, we don't. And I had people walking up to me as we're playing our game going, what's the rules in these tournaments? I go, I didn't come up with this thing. This is why you can't do these things.
Well, I had to do something because
I agree, but it has to be done through a board, not a division director text or whatever, or between two people. You know, so if we get dragged into it, we need to know the full scope of what's going on. We didn't know.
Right. The last text that the board had was, I got an attaboy for saying no trophies, no tournament.
That's different.
That was
okay?
from you saying attaboy, we don't need trophies. But then
I agree, but that's why we changed the rules in the workshop. Did we not cover trophies in the last workshop? Yeah.
Yeah, that was me that did that.
Whatever, the rules were not followed in fall. And so when someone goes to me, we're doing a tournament and our rules say a playoff with random rankings, you know, then I had a kid in 8U saying that, you know, they felt that they had to pummel their opponent to increase their margin of victory in order for them to advance. I mean, these are things that need to be discussed versus having a bad outcome on the losing hand of a kid in 8U getting beat 20-1. You know, none of us knew what was going on because this was how it was presented to us. So all I'm saying is that what's in our rules is in our rules. That's what we need to follow.
Okay.
And if we change it in the summer for the fall season. Wendy, thank you. All right, we need to come up with a system on when it rains, who checks the fields. In our bylaws, that says the commissioner's responsibility for field operations. You live in the acreage, I understand that. All right, but when it's raining and no one answers on the board and says, are the fields wet, are they playable, it's crickets. I've got to text Wendy as a concession manager and she checks the fields. That needs to change.
What I got told in the fall when I first got elected was any board member can cancel because of flooding or raining, and any board member can say no baseball tonight.
Someone in our bylaws as commissioner, it says you're responsible for field operations. Us as a board member work as a seven, all seven. They can do that, okay? But if someone can't do it, then you, having field operation responsibility, should have a plan B, someone local in Royal Palm who can check for you, because we all work. I get that. You live in the acreage. But I shouldn't have to call the concession manager and say, what do the fields look like? Can you go and take pictures of them?
Maybe she's my local. Yeah, but I understand. I'll get somebody local. It's not that's just, getting somebody to volunteer like a DD. If I can get a DD, I can dang sure get somebody to tell me whether the field's flooded.
Would it be,
There we go. We need something versus,
Doesn't the village go over there and say you're playing or not?
not always,
They have the final say, I believe.
yeah.
Just because it's a
I need to write this down.
But they may leave at 3:30 or 4, and it rains at 4:30.
Right. So
I just want to write on the back.
if it's like
I
if it's
know-
raining at like 3:30 or something like 4 or something like that, I'll often sometimes myself, because the park staff, they leave at 3:30. So if it's like between 3:30 and 5 before I go home, I'll go and check it myself. But if it's after 5, it falls on the board to make those decisions on if they can or cannot.
This is good stuff. This is what I need.
All right, we've moved around from our format. For those of you that have an itinerary there, that was just a suggestion. Does anyone have anything they further report you want to add from the board member report?
I can just talk about the pitching machine. If you want.
Oh, we got to fix them.
Actually, you know what? Before we go there, one more thing on fields is, as commissioner, Joe Maggio was great at this, and Steve will tell you, Ed picked it up. In the shutdown season we're past, you should make an appointment with Steve and walk each field and point out what needs to be fixed during the shutdowns, fall and summer.
Just any time in between?
His schedule and your schedule.
I mean, you can do it during the season and everything else. too.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. I mean, if it's something that immediately that needs to be brought up, then, obviously bring that.
Does earlier count? No, I'm just kidding.
You know, they're shut down for 30 days, and he has an agenda he can give to his crew to fix if it's a lip, if it's a hole, whatever it may be.
Got it.
If possible, since we're only about a month away from
Opening, yeah.
day? Yeah, we're about a month away from. Oh, about 2 months from opening day, but
In 3 weeks from practices.
right, 3 weeks from practices. If you can, maybe this week, if you have a time where you
Oh,
can.
I know before fall season, we did a walkthrough.
I'm ready anytime.
Okay.
I don't 100, I know Bruce was there and some of the guys from the village, we walked through the fields, as I remember pushing the stroller through the fields.
Ed?
So,
When you do the walkthrough, can myself and Ed be present for, we have some travel discussions we need to talk about.
No.
Too.
Head in stereo?
That Ed too. He's the AU team. If you don't mind, we've come into some issues with our games in 8U. We need to use the bigger field, and it's field 2. We want to see if it's possible to put a little more dirt behind the mound so we can put the pitching machine on the mound and use it. So we need about, 2 feet? Yeah. 2. It'd be easier if we could just go and show.
Because field 3, when you're pitching 12U on field 3, you're pitching over a hill.
Yeah, I can take care of that too. That's,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, they cut it.
Did they?
They cut it down and replaced the whole lip at the plate on that field. The only thing that's still done is third base is 6 feet too long. Then that way it don't go all ball.
Get him ready for the next level.
It's easy when I'm in business.
So let's, in our haphazard way of format, let's let Kyle talk about the new pitching machines.
So we have a meeting that is either going to be on the 31st of January or 2nd of February, where we will be meeting with Pat Moore and the rest of Cal Ripken. They will be introducing a new pitching sling. They call it the Perfect Pitch Arm. So if you want to Google it, and I actually have the link if you guys want for the video. It has a lot of good reviews. They are stating that it's made by the same company and it's more accurate in speed, consistency, and location of pitch. So it's a lot of good reviews. So I'm not going to go purchase those repair slings about those just yet. They want to use them for tournament play, but we actually are going to get one free. It's a $200 value by going to this meeting. So we'll start off with one, and we are going to purchase 2 others.
Yes, well, one's for 8, 1, and 2.
So we'll have them.
Yes.
Yes, because I also have on our list.
Yeah.
We're,
How many do we need? L screens.
so with the points.
2?
then we can-
Yeah, the reason I ask is Chevrolet they're going to give us some equipment now, and the L screen's an option.
Well, some catchers, like I said, maybe me.
Get with him with a punch list.
We'll talk after this, and we'll schedule something next week to do.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, there's some softball catcher's gear in your equipment room. Do not give that to baseball players. Or did
So-
you grab it all? Okay, never mind.
Colin, anything else?
No, that's it. Yeah, I talked about Tony earlier, and that's pretty much it. That's it for the vice president's report.
So let's move on to registration. Steve, can you, on your village marquees, pump our registration available? I could send you a text on that.
Send me a text or an email. Email is easiest because then I can just forward it right to the person who does all that.
Okay.
Question, going back to the new slings, we get one free. Are we purchasing more?
2. I just said
So
8,
there's
1, and
gonna
2.
be 3?
3 total.
Okay,
8, 1, and 2. We'll get the fields that'll use them.
okay.
So we're going to do brochures. I think we need to focus on the elementary schools. I got one already queued up for Royal Palm Elementary. Chris, you've been very helpful. Did you do elementary schools or did you do middle schools previously, Chris?
Elementary, and I got the numbers for Cypress Trails and Everglades.
Of course you do. Hold on, Chris.
I just got it today while we were sitting here.
Thank you. Thank you. What are your numbers for, I'm sorry, which one?
Cypress Trails,
Cypress Trails, what
I
you
need
got?
20 stacks of 20
20 stacks of 20?
and 4 stacks of 25.
20 and then 4 of 25.
And then Everglades,
Everglades.
25 stacks of 20.
Bear with me.
Sure.
20 stacks of 20.
No, 25 of 20.
I'm sorry. 25 of 20.
And then 22 stacks of 25.
Thank you, Chris.
Welcome.
Like always, not a shocker. You got it done. Wendy, could you help us out in this capacity this year again? I know you went to a couple of schools for us.
I do the daycares.
Oh, you can do the daycares.
Yeah, I do the daycares around the fields.
How many do you need? Brochures.
You're gonna need altogether about 500, and then they divide them up themselves to the parents. We don't pre-divide, or they don't pre-divide. They set them in the windows and the parents drop the children off.
So 500 meets your, okay. All right.
To help you out, Wendy, I go to KinderCare every day to drop the baby off so I can drop the ones off to them. I would say probably about 50 of them for parents to grab as they have a little table when you walk, KinderCare on Royal Palm Beach Boulevard.
KinderCare, okay. 50.
Yeah.
Kim, I don't know, I need a volunteer if you could reach out to the Secretary of Acreage Pines, Golden Groves, and
I'll get Golden
Loxahatchee.
Groves. I'll get Golden Groves.
What's that?
I'll get Golden Groves.
Golden Groves, I'm not doing Acreage Pines.
What you can do is I've got the I don't know, what we've done in the past is email the secretary and says, we'd like to hand out the brochure. Could you get your principal's approval?
I can get,
When I w-
I've got Joy on my phone. I can
Yeah, when I went in there last time, I gave her the box that we had, and she said, that's no problem, just next time, can you come get with me and tell me, so I know the lady, she said, if I just tell her how many, she'll do it.
I
can do Golden Grove.
Okay.
You know, Joy?
Can you do Acreage Pines, Glenn?
Yes.
Somebody? Thank you.
Someone, all right, someone.
Can anybody
her
do
name is-
Western Pines? Because, I mean,
I think we should do is
middle schools?
let's go elementary, because that's our bread and butter. We got to build this league from the base. I mean, if you have numbers at Western Pines, last time we've not had success in handing them out. Keith?
I think one of the coaches was principal, I think it was in Pine, so, I mean, I don't see why he would, Palladino.
Oh, Scott? Yeah, he's the dean of discipline.
So I don't see, I mean, I'm saying is,
I'm just saying more of a softball aspect,
that's someone that
because
talked about getting him.
If somebody wants to try, great. All right. We have
Western Pines.
Western Pines.
My brother-in-law is the athletic director.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Mr. Coach Schramm?
No.
Oh.
Oh wait. Oh wait, he's not. He's the volleyball coach and the PE teacher there. Sorry.
So you
Very good friends with Schramm, but
could you help us on that capacity? Flex your muscle.
Don't let us down, Steve.
flex your muscle with HL.
Could anyone do Loxahatchee Groves?
nothing.
I drive by it. I could drop stuff off.
I've got the secretary's name, Candy McLeod. I could email.
I just know their principal's not very,
They let us hand
receptive.
it out before.
okay.
I'm sorry? Huh?
Listen,
I think it's on Okeechobee West.
it's on Okeechobee and,
Okeechobee in 62nd.
yeah, 162nd.
Kim, if I send you that one, you reach out to her being with your school address.
24, I need 24 sets for Pierce Hammond. 24 sets, 20.
24 sets of 20? All right, bear with me, hold on. The other thing I'm gonna do is I talked 4 hours on registration, 2 hours is working on a database. I went with Blue Sombrero. Anybody that's registered for us and is not registered in the past 2 years, I've got a list. And we've got postcards to be mailed out as a registration. And they're expensive. I think the cards itself are only a couple $100, but the postage is about $300. So we're gonna look at spending about $1,000 for registration brochures, from handouts to these postcards. And if you get 10 new people, it pays for itself. So I think it's worth the investment of doing it. So for those if you can get any information at Acreage Pines or Waxahachie Groves, we'll get that going.
I need 34 sets of 22 for Golden Grove.
I'm sorry, you did Acreage Pines, Golden Grove is
Golden Grove is 34 sets of 22.
34, okay. All right, let's get that out and get the numbers going. Do you have a connection there?
Yes, he does. But my wife's a teacher.
Can she? I know before we used Danny and his wife would hand it out.
Last time I took some stuff in there, she said she wouldn't do it, but maybe we could do it through aftercare, talk with the aftercare people and have some stuff, the parents come in and sign up, but it wouldn't reach every bid. But I can talk to her again, the principal. Last time she said that they don't let anybody do that stuff, just so they didn't have to deal with everyone.
You know, we're a for-profit organization, so why she want to help us, right? I'm joking, we're nonprofit. How many brochures would you need? 100, 200?
Yeah,
But
he's
she,
not- his wife-
well, if we got to put them in daycare, I'm thinking a stack of a couple hundred, but if she lets us go to classrooms with it, obviously, whatever it is, 20 classes of,
But what I'm gonna do is I'll ask her if we can just put stacks of 20 in each teacher's mailbox, and then just put a little email out to the teachers if they wouldn't mind passing them out on the Friday.
all right, if you can get back to me on that, I appreciate that. Then I'll put those numbers in as well and get those brochures to you.
When will they have these?
This week.
If you, I know,
Our goal should be to get them out by next Monday. We should.
good luck with her trying to do at HL, but if you wanted me to do with Chelsea and the aftercare, I dropped Jamie off, or picked Jamie up from aftercare there.
She's the one that would say yes or no to aftercare.
Yeah, so I could talk to Miss Chelsea and see if we could put a stack on the table as you sign out.
The school goes to aftercare, so
Yeah,
Still a decent number.
That's a good chunk.
yeah. John's been on the waiting list for 3 months, trust me, I know. There's a lot of kids in that aftercare.
So, anybody want to add something to registration before we close out here?
Are we doing anything at Western Heights? Did we say?
Yeah, Steve's gonna use the power of the village to get
Does
us in
anybody
now.
have a connection at Crestwood since they are here in the village?
Finan will do it. Just go to Finan. Just drop them off at Finan.
The one kid that's always on, Kevin Mag, he coaches the baseball team. He's always on the
If you can get
15
me
years.
brochures by Friday, I can get them to Crestwood and Golden Grove.
You can get them to
Or
Crestwood?
I have a meeting Friday with several APs, but I need them Friday morning.
All right. How many do you think we should need for Crestwood?
I'd say just give us a hand.
Like 100, 200,
Yeah.
whatever? All right. Okay,
I did, with registration, just to jump back at that, I did make a post onto our Facebook page, and I did share it on every Acreage, Royal Palm, Wellington page that I am affiliated with. And there have been a lot of people tagging other people in it and liking it and stuff, so I have been getting it out on social media.
okay.
So that reaches a lot of people, especially in those mom groups.
All right. Anybody else? Kyle?
Or anything. For anything?
Anything.
Did we figure out who's gonna headhunt opening ceremony with all the games and everything else like that?
I had something to piggyback on that, Kyle. We talked about the home run derby, and then we talked about launch a ball and some other games. What I wanted to ask is when we do the draft, or when we do the coaches clinic, or when we do something, we need to try to get I don't know what else to call it, but donations or prizes for like the launch a ball, so we don't have to go out and buy them. You ask the companies or whatever, and some of them do the hover things, and some of them do this and some of them do that, and tickets to a baseball game or whatever. So when they get the ball in the hole, that's the prize for that. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't, I'm going to start trying to put everything towards the board, but that's something I think we need to address. Otherwise, we're going to have a bunch of hula hoops and nothing to give them, unless we have to pay for it, which defeats the purpose.
There is a place called Accessory Palace. It's behind Alpaca Ford or whatever it's called now. I am the guy that owns it. He goes to my church. I'm really good friends with him. We've gotten a lot of our holiday quote unquote shop stuff for our school, or H.L. Johnson there. They do have blow up bats that are like 25 cents, or like you buy 100 of them for $10. So if we had things like that, and if we sold the balls $1 a piece, we'd make our money 10 people playing. So that's always an option. They have anything you can, they have baseball bows, softball bows, they have anything you can think of there. All of the little tchotchke kind of toys that kids want. So if I do have an account there because I do know the guy. So if anybody is interested in those being our prizes, I was also thinking that we have a radar gun. We could say, who has the fastest pitch of the night gets if we can get a basket from or a gift card from a
Yeah,
restaurant.
we want to be careful on that. Some kid throwing his arm out and then Mancuso having a cow. Yeah.
If we can get, I think Wendy has, and maybe that red notebook that you and I put together, you mainly, a letter that people can take, we'd probably be a lot more successful walking into a business with a letter to say, we are Royal Palm Beach Baseball, nonprofit, this is our goal, is there anything you can donate? And then some of those rings, Glenn, maybe we could do, Chris, is the ones that are pretty far out on the field. Maybe give it, you get that ring out in the center field at whatever, you get your registration half off the next season. That costs us nothing.
Yeah.
And that's a great, you're going to have parents who are going to be going for that ring. No, they're going to buy 10 balls knowing they're going to get $80 off the registration next season. We aren't going to tell Steve.
With what, half off? I don't know. That's your money.
And Steve gets the other half.
I think Rolf said he's going to donate a 6-pack of his IPAs too, so.
I'll make a 12-pack. What the hell?
No, he's generous.
Oh, it's documented now.
I just don't know who's in charge of it and who's operating the Facebook page anymore.
Well, that falls under Jake.
Yeah.
But
No, we listen. Go right to the source. Between Amy and then Crystal, go right to the source.
Okay. But obviously, we want to promote it and put the home run derby out there, plus other games. I know a lot of us, Ed's team, Ed and Ed, Ed and Ed back there. We're going to have a lot of people helping out with the home run derby. We're going to use the slings instead of having somebody out there throwing their arm the whole time. So it's going to be a good event, but we just want to make sure that we're making sure that they are staying out there for the activities that night.
Just remember,
Yeah. Well,
Listen, we've done it, and not that many land in the hoops, dude.
we'll, let's do this. Let's move on and we'll get some more details in the beginning of February. What I want to last cover here is the umpiring assistant that we're talking about. So just to be clear, the umpire in chief does all scheduling. With the assistant, and again, this is a conversation, the assistant would be the on-site facilitator for any on-field dispute. What are the rules?
So we call him the FD.
No, because the FD, we're doing too much from handing out stuff. I mean, we're doing cash handouts to the umps, we're handing out slings, baseballs.
But you can do the FDA if you have an FD.
Let's just do an umpiring just so we can hire an umpire and pay an umpire rate.
So
Also, maybe walk around and rate the umpires, something like that, observe them.
whoever is going to have or whoever will have this role has to be a seasoned veteran umpire. So you're looking at possibly Norm or Ed or somebody like that that's going to have to do that, because you can't have
Kyle.
little Johnny walking around. Casey, he's another good one. He's like a book. But you can't have our unseasoned umpires walking around saying, hey, yeah, this is the right call, when they haven't picked up a rule book and read it. You know what I mean? It's just we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot and make it look worse than it actually, really is. But I do like the idea of having somebody there. We just have to make sure that we do it correctly.
Do the right person.
Yes.
Can I make a suggestion? And this is just because Kyle, sorry, I'm trumping you. I don't know, do we need, and I'm just throwing this out there, do we need an umpire assistant every time we have games scheduled? Or can,
Yes.
during the week, Monday through Thursday, we have 3 or 4 games a night, where on Saturday we have 16 games.
It'll be 2 shifts.
Okay.
How do you forecast when there's an issue?
But I think what Kim means is during the week as an FD, it's very simple to pass out money because you're done in like 10 seconds and then you're just running around. Anyways, so on Saturday, the umpire assistant would be more useful.
But not all games end on start. They all start at 6:30, but there's launching things that happen, and then they all end differently. Run rules, different time limits, and God forbid something's going on and you're handing out money. This is a trial to see how it works.
Okay.
Okay.
Listen, I'm all for saving money, but if this facilitates, it's a good thing. We can build on it. Ed?
On slow nights where there's only 1 or 2 games, that means there's going to be a lot of practices going on. If I'm at the field, you don't have to pay anybody.
Yeah, I think we use common sense on that.
There'll be other people.
Yeah.
Fields, use them too.
I think if we got 2-3 games on an off night, the field director can manage that. I'm talking the buzzing nights when all the fields are humming.
We appreciate your honesty.
Yeah, and you can do that role too, Ed.
You said 30?
Sure. I only get paid when I do 10U games and get yelled at from people like you.
Does anybody want to cover any other items?
Ed, don't try to run too fast. You're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah. That's open floor, so.
I would like to just kind of spit out there and thank Wendy and the team for, I don't know, it's like she got out of here, but with our travel, we only had 6 games at our park in the fall, and all 6 of those, every opposing team really was shocked at how well run from the officials to how well the fields looked to the bathrooms being clean, all the way.
Our bathrooms?
Oh, yeah, our bathrooms. But remember, we're not doing it in rec, right? So nobody's playing in the fall. So parking being good, not having to worry about security, having batting cages, not having to walk 6 miles to go anywhere. So good, in fact, just want you to know, we've scheduled 20 games so far for the spring in travel, and we have 17 home games. We only have to travel for 3. And other teams want to come to our park for various of reasons. It's convenient. If we can all just work together and drive the bus on making it pleasurable when you're walking around and not, and just the little chatter. I mean, it's crazy, but if you build it, they will come, because we are a perfect location. We're very low key. The traffic is not hard to get here. The park is great. The village is great. For the most part, the fans are great. All the way down the thing. We just gotta be nice to each other and keep going, and it will happen. But thank you. I know she left, but you guys did a really good job. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you and Ed Bianco hit the nail on the head. That's how we make this park great, is by building our travel program. So Ed.
All right, great segue. So I coach the 8U travel team. So there's just a couple things I wanted to discuss that I've been meaning to get to one of these meetings to kind of bring up and surface. So hopefully this is the right forum to do so. Totally agree with you. I think travel is a great way to build notoriety for our league, and that's kind of what we're committed to doing at the 8U division. I'm happy to say we have players coming from other leagues this season to play rec ball at our park because they're part of our travel program. That's a really cool thing. So the other thing too, you talk about coaching. Myself, I'll be coaching in 8U rec, and 3 of my assistant coaches will be coaching in 8U rec. So I think that's going to be a really good situation for 8U baseball. So a couple of things to address, that from my experience last spring, that I think we definitely need to get going right out of the bat. The pitching machine, the distance from the plate, and the speed that the machine is throwing at. Last season, there was 2 different machines. They were set differently. Every game, it was a little bit different as where they were. Every other Cal Ripken park follows the standard, 46 feet from home plate. And, we have a radar gun. We should dial those machines in. You can't just set them on the same setting because they're all a little bit different. They should all be throwing between 38 and 40 miles an hour. Coaches are going to want to dial those things down and slow them down and throw these meatballs. It doesn't help our league develop kids. Because I tell you what, let them go through the growing pains, let them learn, and it's going to make them better ball players. As they move up to kid pitch, they're going to be ready for it. If you cater to their deficiencies, you're not doing anyone any favors. So that's the biggest thing for me, is getting that machine set, and that's part of the reason for wanting to extend the back of the mound on field 2, because it just drops straight off. So you can't put a pitching machine there at 46 feet. So by building that out a little bit, that will facilitate that and make that possible. The other thing is kid pitch, first 2 innings. We're kind of a trailblazing league in that regard. We allow our kids to pitch the first 2 innings in 8U. I think it's a great concept. When I talk to coaches from other leagues, their eyes get big and they get jealous, and they're like, wow, that's a great idea. One of the things I'd like to suggest, though, it's already minimized. It's already, I think, a 2-run limit, those first 2 innings. 3-run limit. I really think that we should not only do kid pitch, but we should have open bases, because when you get to 9U baseball, the catching position goes from irrelevant to critical. So if you're actually letting kids block balls and it's actually a live ball, you're actually developing now not just pitching, but actually the catching side of it too. I don't think it's going to extend the game that much more. You already have a 3-run limit, but I think that could be a really, really nice improvement, because that's just a critical piece of the game that's kind of neglected.
When you say open, you talking about no leadoffs, but they can steal?
No leadoffs, just like they do in 10U right now. And that's kind of the idea, to get them ready for 10U. I think it would be a really good idea to kind of let them.
That's kind of a workshop, but with that one item, we can maybe squeeze in the February meeting and talk about that, because there's no leads. And
okay.
Also, Chris, didn't we change the pitching limits in 8U? We've reduced them, right?
There was a change, but I'll be honest with you, I don't have the rules with me today. I'm not prepared, so I can't tell you.
We thought 50 was too much, so we reduced.
It was 50? Oh, I didn't know that. I was
Yeah, we
pulling my
reduced it down to, I
kids.
think, 30 or,
40, we reduced it to 35, I think one day rest.
yeah.
I
So
was pulling
I
my
saw one
kids.
kid out there struggling on like pitch 40 something, whatever it was, and so that's now been reduced.
Yeah, whatever, good sense will prevail there. I think, I think I was throwing my kids like 25 pitches and getting them out of there. But I think, by doing that, by opening the game up a little bit more, I think it's going to help develop the players and even make that aspect of our league that much better. So there's that. One other thing I wanted to throw in there, like I said, I have a travel team. Right now we get Friday nights, we get Sundays. That's great, but I've made this suggestion before, and I think it could really, I think travel is going to help the league, so we can help travel a little bit. If you, however many kids you have register in 8U, say you have 6 teams, you make the practice schedule work for those 6 teams. If it's 8, you make it work for 8. I just wonder why you can't take that 8U travel team and just treat them like they're another rec team and get them in that practice schedule to where they have Fridays and one other day a week they can have a practice. For me, come fall when we're not playing, we're transitioning to 9U baseball. Friday nights is just not enough practice. I've had to go out and get fields at other facilities, which I don't want to do because my kids aren't going to develop if I'm only practicing on Friday nights and then playing games on Sundays. It's just not enough. So especially in the fall when registration is a little bit lower, if you would have had 12 kids walk up and sign up and form another team, you'd find a way to get them practice. But the travel team doesn't get that same consideration. I just think that could go a long way to helping us out and helping us develop and stay competitive.
Ed, don't you get notice when there's an available field that's fair and whatever?
Yeah, but I gotta dig deep for it. Yeah, it'd be a lot easier if we were.
So I think what we can do is, we gotta get a new schedule this season, but yeah, when there's fields available, let you guys get first picks, through Ed. And I know he's fair, he'll balance it off.
Okay. I mean, that's.
And if you're right, if there is an availability, there's not an issue with that. We are a recreational league, but at the same token, if we have availability and want to take advantage of our teams and help you out.
Sure, okay.
But that kid get kind of dicey. I'm not taking anything away from it, but some of the kids that are on, you saying your travel team practice on a Wednesday night. Well, 3 of your kids might be on this other rec team, and then they're missing practice with their rec team to practice with you.
He's talking in fall.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the spring. I'm like,
In fall season for us is like, it's
oh,
going to
okay,
be critical, yeah.
okay. Okay, I thought we were talking about spring. That's where I was like, hold on.
And one other thing I just want to throw in there, not trying to nitpick or anything, but, you guys have said in this meeting, like coaching is the bread and butter of the league. And I think I hear it all the time. I've had parents tell me, if you're not coaching, I'm not coming back, that sort of thing. Parents appreciate coaching, and that's what really adds value to the league. I have a 12-year-old playing, I have an 8-year-old playing, I have a 3-year-old who's playing. I'm going to be here for a long time. I've been here for 7 years already. I'm going to be here at least another 10 years. I'm coaching a rec team. I'm coaching a travel team. I'm going to be assistant coaching a 12U team. Yet as a coach, I'm required to give a concession deposit for 3 children. So that's $75
Come to
out
me.
of my pocket.
Listen, we have people call us all the time. Just come to me. All right?
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just, that's just.
Just
one of
send me
those
an
things.
email, and you have extenuating circumstances. All right?
Okay. And that's just, you want to entice coaches, that's another thing. Hey, if you coach, maybe you don't have to do the concession deposit. You're going to be here.
Well,
however many
the
minutes a
thing
week.
is, thanks to you guys, travel helps our concession, which helps subsidize recreational baseball. But we got to have concession to pay our bills.
Yeah,
We're talking about paying an extra umpire, having ex-major leaguers or minor leaguers come in, and that costs money.
Sure.
And so, we need to have people show up to support those things.
Sure. No, I totally understand.
That's it. The
I don't
formula
disagree
works.
with the rule. I think it's a great concept because if parents don't want to do it, then they can just let the deposit go.
Yeah.
But for me to have to come 3 times.
Listen, if you're here
concession
6 nights a week, if someone's here 6 nights a week coaching 3 teams, come talk to me. We'll work with you.
Yeah, I'll
All
be
right?
here 7. So it'll be 7 days a week. So.
All right, yeah.
We put a cot in the equipment room for him already.
Ed, one of the reasons those pitching machines are dialed different, one they use the T-ball, that's why they have 6U and 8U.
Yeah, but even the 2 8U ones were different.
Well, we're getting new machines, so that hopefully won't be an issue.
Well, I'll be honest with you too. I see some of those coaches go out there and try to set that thing up, and they really don't look like they know what they're doing. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how to set one of those things up. So come the coaches clinic, that will be one thing that is discussed.
This is where this umpire alternate,
He's the one that should be doing
yeah,
an clinic for the 8U coaches on how to use the pitching machine.
okay.
And the one thing I'll say, I'm just throwing this out there, at Okehilly, you know, when you go to Cal Ripken and you play in these tournaments, the umpires run the sling. You know, you go to Okehilly Rec, the umpires run the sling. You know, we're the only league where the coach runs the sling. I'm not opposed to it because I like dialing it in for my kids, but it's something to throw out there if you want to get them used to what they're going to face, you know, in all-star situations.
You know, we're new to the sling, so this is good information. Maybe we should do that. And that way the umpiring has responsibility on measuring in the distance and the whole 9 yards.
In the email, it does say that the
What's that?
We also run 2 umpires at 8U. That's true.
That's ridiculous. And ain't you?
Because if you got an umpire running the swing, you gotta have 2 umpires. Yeah, that's.
All right, coach can do the sling.
Okay.
You need 2 and 8U anyway because the kid pitch, the first 2 innings of kid pitch, you can't have.
No, we've done.
That last year, and
It was a nightmare. Yeah, no.
No need for 2?
No. Ed, thank you. Anything else?
Yep, that's it. Thank you.
Ed, do you have anything else? All right, I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Sorry.
I need formal votes. We have not voted in anything. Any discussions, nothing has been voted in tonight.
Well, we voted in the,
The minutes, that's it.
no, the umpiring goes to
Right,
VP.
but I need all the reports voted in.
Oh, I'd like to make a motion to vote in all these reports.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Thank you.
Anything else, Kim?
Oh, yeah, I need finances.
Keith.
He's gonna email that, but go ahead, Keith. Anything?
Like 26, about 26 grand, and maybe 2 grand's coming out for last season's trophies. That's about it.
We have no expenditures in December, Steve. We have no expenditures in December, so there's not much to report. But you know,
I'll have it to you by the end of the week. I just have it at the house on flash drive, and I didn't have it in my office. But
I'll get that. He'll email it to you. All right. Anything else? I can make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
All fair say aye. Aye. Let's go.